Okay, I think in some level there is something going on where I'm supposed to accept that they took my Claudia block and they tried to do this ritual that for whatever reason they think they're justified in doing. And I consider it to be a violation of my constitutional rights, including the Texas Constitution, when it comes to privileging of sex, because my faith preference and my political preference would be to be among people that would never do something like that without informed consent. And even if you did, there would be very strict rules. And if you violated those rules, the punishments would be severe. And that especially means anything having to do with boundaries and minors. And I already know as a woman who used to be a teacher and an instructor that first I was an instructor of people that were legally over the age of consent, some of whom were either my age or just slightly younger than me. So please understand, my background as an educator starts first with education of adults, as journalist, as investigative journalist, at an award-winning publication. Then I engaged in education involving minors of a martial art and was under supervision on site at a church. That did not mean that they had a right to violate the laws of Mort Maine. Nobody told me about the laws of Mort Maine at the time. But if I had known the laws of Mort Maine, I would have told every one of my students I was teaching. Because I believe the laws of Mort Maine were actually violated when they encroached upon my privacy after I had engaged in independent work for a political campaign for Congress. And they tried to bind those young people who were in that martial arts program through that church to violations of the 14th Amendment. And they've persisted to this day. But no attorney, no other educator, including who would be considered a potential colleague, or anybody in a position of state responsibility ever told me, and I'm very, very certain they never told their parents, and they never told them. But I know that now. And so later, when I was in another country teaching young people, I also did not know how these English or British common law processes might impact the law of the land there, which was not colonized first by the British, right? And I had absolutely no reason to expect that the Department of State would have any enforceable jurisdiction in those activities at all. But if I did, if I had known, I would have informed the people who were my students, the young people who were my students. And that's where I got in trouble, specifically for trying to begin a process of talking to them about the American Constitution and their constitutional rights, starting with how it was that the United States came into being, including the Declaration of Independence, including how the Constitution ended up getting written. For that, I was determined to be in a situation where I was emotional and it made the children feel scared. And so, in order for them to assure that the children were safe being around me, while I was required, by the way, to go to class anyhow, I had to take medication that had not been prescribed and had not even been identified to me and had been allegedly made available to me without any doctor involved in front of the students I had been trying to teach about the Constitution. So when you think you're playing some ritual where you're teaching young people based upon an attempt to exploit me, that's what your context is, as far as I understand. What did you teach them? How did you define them, first of all? What kind of students were they? Did they have parental oversight, permission, control, command authority? These are serious questions. You're going to have to answer them.